podcast where we bridge science, nutrition, and functional medicine so you can heal from the inside out. I'm Kim Larson, certified functional nutrition coach, fast like a girl coach, and founder of Larson Nutrition, where I help women restore metabolism, balance hormones, and regain their vitality through personalized nutrition and root cause approaches. This podcast is brought to you by Larson Botanicals, a clean line of organic ingredient skincare and clean, non toxic candles made without any hormone disrupting chemicals. Larson Botanicals was created because so many of the products marketed to women today are full of synthetic fragrances, parabens, and endocrine disruptors that quietly interfere with hormones, skin health, and even metabolism. That's why I created Larson Botanicals, is because all of the hormone disruption that was happening and causing havoc on my body. Every formula we make is simple, clean, and designed with your hormonal health in mind. Everybody that I have given these products to or that have bought these products have raved about them. The therapeutic myrrh balm helps with any kind of pain that you're dealing with. I get it from, using my thumbs on my phone, and it has really helped on the inside, getting rid of the pain. My husband has pain in his shoulder. He's been putting the myrrh balm on his shoulder. No pain left in his shoulder. So you have to put it on regularly. It's kind of like taking a pill, except for this is all natural myrrh balm, all organic ingredients. So you can explore the full collection at larsonbotanicals.com and learn more there. Also, today I wanted to talk to you about, have a long, deep conversation about something that I think is profoundly misunderstood in women's health. It's the relationship between your gut and your hormones. Not in the fluffy wellness way, not in the trendy heal your gut to fix everything way, but in a deep, scientific, functional, research backed way that genuinely explains why so many women feel like their hormones are out of control, even when they're doing everything right or think they're doing everything right. If you've struggled with things like bloating, stubborn weight gain, that middle section of weight gain, PCOS, thyroid issues, estrogen dominance, perimenopause symptoms, fatigue, mood swings, anxiety that doesn't match your life, cravings that don't feel logical, or the classic, my labs say I'm fine, but I don't feel fine. This episode is going to give you clarity in a way I don't think most women ever receive. We're going to talk about the microbiome. Yes, again, we're going to talk about the microbiome, but we're not stopping there. We're talking about the chemical messengers your gut produces. We're talking about how your gut shapes the immune system. We're talking about estrogen, detoxification pathways, thyroid conversion pathways, insulin signaling, cortisol feedback loops, neurotransmitter production, the estrobolome, which is a short chain, also short chain fatty acids, leaky gut, physiology, bile acids, and the gut brain hormone axis. I'm going to talk about this all in plain English. I'll explain in a way that makes you feel empowered and not overwhelmed. So the estrobolome is the collection of gut microbes or bacteria that metabolize and regulate estrogen levels in the body, acting as a crucial link between your gut health and hormonal balance, especially for estrogen. These bacteria produce enzymes like beta glucuronate, let's say this 10 times fast, glucuronidase, which can reactivate estrogen that's marked for excretion, allowing it to be reabsorbed or safely eliminated, influencing everything from PMS to menopause symptoms and potentially cancer risk. A balanced estrobolome supports healthy hormone cycling, while imbalanced one, like dysbiosis, can lead to estrogen dominance or deficiency. And I'm also going to share research, from the last 5 years, especially 21 through 25, because gut microbiome research is absolutely exploding right now. What we know in 2025 is dramatically more detailed than what we knew even 5 years ago. So let's take a deep breath. Let's drop into our bodies, because this conversation might change the way you think about symptoms that have frustrated you for years. I want to start by painting a picture of what's really going on inside you. When we talk about the gut, we're not just talking about your stomach or your intestines. We're talking about an entire communication center, a living, dynamic, intelligent ecosystem of around 38 trillion microorganisms. And the striking thing about the ecosystem is that it's not quiet, it talks constantly. It communicates with your immune system, your brain, your liver, your fat cells, your adrenal glands, your ovaries, your thyroid, and even the lining of your blood vessels. Now imagine all of that communication happening inside of you every second. Imagine those messages being clear, stable, and beneficial. That's a healthy microbiome. But now imagine something happens. You go through a stressful year. You take antibiotics for an infection. You begin eating more processed foods because you're busy. You stop sleeping well because you're in perimenopause or dealing with anxiety. And maybe you've been on the pill for years, like I was. I was on the pill for years. Suddenly, the gut microbiome begins to shift. It's not overnight, but slowly, quietly, gradually. Some beneficial bacteria start disappearing. Others start multiplying too much. And the gut lining becomes just like a little more permeable, a little more inflamed. And what happens next is the messages from the gut start changing. The gut begins sending different signals to the immune system, different signals to the brain, different signals to your hormones. Those signals are now coming from a place of inflammation, imbalance, and stress. The messages aren't clear anymore. They're distorted. And you feel it. You feel it in your energy. You feel it in your digestion. You feel it in your mood. You feel it in your cycle. You feel it in your cravings. You feel it in your weight. It's like your body is speaking a different language and you haven't been trained to understand it. But I'm going to translate it for you today. I can tell you a story that for me, myself, I was on the pill for years and not knowing that it was causing all this harm to my body. I should have just, kept going with my own cycle and practicing other safe sex ways, because it's amazing what it does to harm your body, your gut lining, your own hormones, right? Let your body do its own work of its own hormones. So, putting all these extra hormones into our bodies, I mean, they didn't do that years ago. It did, for me at least, clear up acne. I had teenage acne, and that's why I originally went on it, was because I had teenage acne, and then I just stayed on it. It just made sense. I don't know why. And then what happened later on was I would eat food and my gut would go, it would just move right out, right? And I'm like, oh, my gut hurts. What's going on? What is happening? I had no idea. I wasn't eating fast food. I wasn't eating highly processed foods. I was eating whole foods, but it was from all the processing of those hormones and my body just trying to deal with all that it actually ripped a hole in my lining of my gut. And so anytime I would eat, that would leak into my body. It would cause inflammation. Eventually, this is, in my maybe 40s. And then I started to put on a little bit of weight. I would fight it. I would, lose the weight. And then certainly during COVID, eating frozen pizzas and canned soups and doing whatever I could I was living on the 41st floor of a high rise, and I didn't want to get into a little box elevator with other people and potentially get COVID. We just had no idea what COVID was all about. And we didn't know as much as we know today. So let's translate on this, right? Let's begin with estrogen, because estrogen is one of the clearest and best researched examples of how the gut and hormones are intertwined. Inside your gut lives something called estrobolome, a collection of bacterial genes that regulate the metabolism of estrogen. This is not fringe science. This is published in journals like Nature Review Endocrinology and the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. The estrobolome determines whether estrogen is eliminated or reactivated, meaning estrogen that your liver detoxifies and sends to the gut can be deconjuncted, right, or unpacked by certain gut bacteria and returned to circulation. When your gut microbiome is balanced, this system works beautifully. Estrogen gets detoxified, packaged, carried out, and eliminated through your stool. But when the gut microbiome becomes imbalanced or dysbiosis, certain bacteria start producing more of an enzyme called beta glucuronidase. That enzyme uncouples estrogen from the molecule the liver attached to it. Suddenly, that estrogen becomes active again and gets reabsorbed. Now you have more estrogen circulating than your body intended. This is why so many women experience estrogen dominant symptoms, even when their estrogen levels are technically normal, because it's not always about how much estrogen you're producing. It's about how much estrogen you're clearing. Think about symptoms like heavy, painful periods, PMS, breast tenderness, worsening fibroids, water retention, mood swings, headaches. These aren't just hormone production issues, they're hormone metabolism issues. And the gut plays the starring role. The liver and estrobolome are supposed to work together like a baton pass in a relay race. The liver hands estrogen off to the gut to eliminate it. But if the gut drops the baton, if the estrobolome is overactivated, estrogen gets recycled back into the bloodstream, and the liver has to process it again and again and again. This is where women start saying, Kim, I feel like I'm a hormonal roller coaster. I don't know why. So let's talk about PCOS, because PCOS demonstrates another massive mechanism: inflammation-driven insulin resistance originating in the gut. Multiple studies from 2019 to 2024, including those out of China, Finland, and the University of California, have shown that women with PCOS consistently have reduced microbial diversity. This means fewer types of bacterial species. But even more interesting is that PCOS microbiome tends to produce fewer beneficial metabolites, especially short chain fatty acids like butyrate, acetate, and propionate. These short chain fatty acids, or SCFAs, short chain fatty acids, SCFAs, are incredibly anti-inflammatory. They strengthen the gut lining. Like I have in my coffee, I have mushroom extract. Mushroom extract will actually help repair the gut lining. So will bone broth. Bone broth will help repair your gut lining. So I highly recommend that you get some bone broth in the morning, get some marshmallow extract in your coffee. We also have collagen. We have 100% organic cocoa. So it's almost like I'm having a hot chocolate. It's really good for you to have some chocolate, some organic cocoa, 100% cocoa. Anyway, it strengthens the gut lining. They improve insulin sensitivity. They help regulate appetite hormones. They reduce cortisol. They even influence how fat cells behave. So when you get these short chain fatty acids, or the SCFA levels drop, so when the SCFA levels drop, which they do in PCOS, inflammation rises. The gut becomes more permeable. Lipopolysaccharides, or LPS, start leaking into the bloodstream from gram-negative bacteria. LPS, or lipopolysaccharides, is extremely inflammatory. It triggers immune activation and interferes with insulin receptor signaling. Suddenly, insulin isn't working properly. The pancreas produces more insulin to compensate. Elevated insulin stimulates the ovaries to produce more androgens, especially testosterone. Elevated androgens disrupt ovulation, leading to irregular periods, cyst development, which I had. I had an early hysterectomy at 48 because of a cyst. That's all the toxins building up in your body. A cyst, it just means that your body, that's your body's way of, and cancer is the same way. It's all the toxins that are building up. This is why fasting is so important. So if you ever want to know how to get rid of diseases and acne and all kinds of problems with your body, give me a call. We can talk or email me. My email is kimlarson@larsonnutrition.com. Email me if you have any problems whatsoever, and we can talk and I can help you get through it. Right. So if you have cyst development, acne, hair thinning on the scalp, any hair growth in places you don't want it, do you see the chain reaction? Gut dysbiosis equals inflammation equals impaired insulin signaling equals elevated insulin turns into elevated androgens, turns into PCOS symptoms. This is why helping women with PCOS purely through medications like metformin is incomplete. It doesn't address the problem. It's just putting a Band-Aid on everything. When you go see a doctor, a regular doctor, there's times when you need a regular doctor, emergency room. You're in a car accident or something like that. That's when it really matters. But to go see a doctor, I was just talking to somebody yesterday, same thing happened with me. I had Hashimoto's. Had no idea I had Hashimoto's because what the doctor was testing me for was not a complete test. The woman I was speaking to yesterday volunteered at the Lyric Theater in Harbor Springs, and she was telling me that she has Hashimoto's and she's had it, thyroiditis, and she's had it since her 30s. And her doctor is like, no, you're fine. Kept testing her. No, you're fine. No, she was not. And so I was trying to guide her on how to get rid of, because I've gotten rid of my Hashimoto's. And, I told her, don't get off the medication yet, but there are ways. And I gave her some ideas of things that she can take to help herself with her thyroid problems. So yes, metformin improves insulin sensitivity, but if the gut is driving the inflammation that created the insulin resistance in the first place, you have to address that root cause. That's what functional nutrition and functional medicine is all about, is addressing the root cause, not trying to slap a medication on it. Because every time you slap a medication on something, you have another side effect and another side effect. There are people that I know that are on 12 different medications and they all have side effects. So they have to take another medication to subside that side effect. I mean, it's just a vicious circle of medication. I am on no medication other than hormone replacement therapy. And I can tell you, I sleep like a baby. I have no problems. I have no hot flashes. I have nothing going on. It really does make a difference for how you sleep and feel. So I want to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, Larson Botanicals. If you've been listening and realizing how much the environment around you influences your hormones, not just food and stress, but what you put on your skin and breathe in every day. This is exactly why I created Larson Botanicals. Most skincare and home products contain endocrine disrupting chemicals, phthalates, synthetic fragrance blends, parabens, and preservatives that can disrupt estrogen, thyroid function, and even cortisol regulation. Larson Botanicals wanted women to have options that were clean, elegant, organic, and actually safe for long-term hormonal health. And a lot of the organic essential oils that are in these products actually help your body. Larson Botanical skincare is made from pure botanical ingredients, and the candles are made without any synthetic fragrances, petroleum-based waxes, no hormone disruptive additives. None of this. It's all organic soy, organic essential oils, and that is it. They're designed so that you can create a calming home environment without compromising your health. So if you're someone who's working on healing your gut, balancing your hormones and reducing inflammation, minimizing toxic exposure is one of the most powerful steps you can take. You can explore everything at larsonbotanicals.com. And I'm creating more products soon. Now let's shift to thyroid health, because this is where research has exploded in the last 3 years. The thyroid produces T4, but T4 is inactive. I've talked about the thyroid before. Your body has to convert T4 into T3, the active form, primarily in the liver and gut. In fact, about 20% of T3 is produced in the gut by the microbiome. Certain bacterial strains help regulate the enzymes involved in thyroid conversion, especially deiodinase enzymes. But when the gut is inflamed or imbalanced, T4 to T3 conversion drops. You may be producing enough hormone or taking another medication, but your body isn't converting it into its active form. This leads to classic hypothyroid symptoms, even when your labs look normal. You have fatigue, you have weight gain, maybe constipation, brain fog, depression, hair thinning, feeling cold. Add in that gut inflammation impairs absorption of selenium, zinc, iron, iodine, and tyrosine, all essential for thyroid hormone production. So you need to get your gut repaired, right? Because if you have 2 Brazil nuts a day, that'll give you all the selenium you need. If you have seaweed or wild caught fish, that can give you well, it's more like sardines and small little fish that can give you the iodine you need. I actually take an iodine supplement because I don't like sardines, and I don't eat enough seaweed. So these are all essential for your thyroid hormone production. And you see why thyroid symptoms often coexist with gut issues. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, the autoimmune form, also has strong gut connections. Up to 90% of people with autoimmune disease show some degree of intestinal permeability. Let me say that again. Up to 90% of people with autoimmune diseases, this is any autoimmune disease, 90% of them show some degree of intestinal permeability. I'm not just talking thyroiditis. I'm talking every disease out there, right? You have high blood pressure, you have heart disease, you have gut dysbiosis, PCOS. I mean, there are so many problems out there. The immune system becomes activated in the gut and begins producing antibodies that cross-react with thyroid tissue. Gluten can exacerbate this in genetically susceptible people because protein structure of gliadin resembles certain thyroid proteins. Again, the gut speaks the hormone response. I'm sorry, my nose is kind of running. I want to dive deeper into another hormone axis that often flies under the radar, the gut cortisol adrenal connection. Cortisol is your stress hormone produced by the adrenal glands. But cortisol is not just a stress hormone. It's a metabolic hormone. It affects blood sugar, belly fat, inflammation, sleep, and estrogen progesterone balance. When the gut is inflamed, it sends distress signals through the vagus nerve to the brain, activating the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This increases cortisol. And chronic elevated cortisol has a long list of downstream effects. It increases blood sugar, which increases insulin, which increases fat storage. It depletes progesterone, worsening PMS and perimenopause symptoms. It disrupts sleep. It reduces stomach acid. It slows digestion. It increases cravings for sugar and quick energy foods. And here's the kicker: cortisol itself can reshape the microbiome. High cortisol reduces beneficial lactobacillus and bifidobacterium species and increases inflammatory pathobiontic biotins. So the gut triggers cortisol. The cortisol worsens the gut. This is why stress is never just stress. It's a it's a biological feedback loop with real downstream consequences. It is so important that you breathe deep. Practice doing these at least 10 a day. Meditate. I do a speaking meditation each morning and each night. Work through your lymphatics, draining your lymph nodes. Your lymph nodes are behind your ears. They're at your chest point. They're in your armpits. You want to do that. They're behind your knees. They're in your hips. So you want to make sure that you're helping to drain all that. There's so much that you can do to try to help your body regulate itself. Now, let's bring in perimenopause and menopause, because this is one of the most powerful examples of a gut hormone connection. During perimenopause, estrogen and progesterone begin fluctuating, sometimes dramatically. Estrogen helps maintain microbial diversity and supports the integrity of the gut lining. So when estrogen drops, the gut becomes more vulnerable. Women begin experiencing more bloating, more constipation, new food sensitivities, and increased inflammation. Meanwhile, progesterone, which is naturally calming to the nervous system, begins to decline. Lower progesterone means increased anxiety, lighter sleep, and heightened cortisol reactivity. And as we just discussed, higher cortisol disrupts the gut. So perimenopause becomes this perfect storm where gut changes worsen hormone symptoms, and hormone changes worsen gut symptoms. The two systems are intertwined. Let's move deeper into the physiology of the gut itself, because this part is so important. Your gut lining is only one cell thick, one layer. That is the barrier between your internal world and everything you ingest. And those cells are held together by structures called tight junctions. When inflammation rises, when LPS levels increase, when cortisol spikes, when certain medications are overused, when the microbiome loses diversity, those tight junctions loosen. This is intestinal permeability, right? It's not tight. They start to loosen. And this is intestinal permeability, or what people call leaky gut. When the gut becomes permeable, undigested food particles, bacteria fragments, toxins, and inflammatory molecules enter the bloodstream. This stimulates the immune system, increases systemic inflammation, and interferes with the hormone receptors. This is why you feel inflamed, right? Without joint pain, you can feel puffy, swollen, heavy. Your brain feels a little foggy. You're tired. Maybe you're moody or you're anxious, even when nothing hurts. Inflammation doesn't always show up as pain. It often shows up as a hormonal chaos. Now, I want to talk about neurotransmitters, because your gut makes up 90% of your serotonin and about half of your dopamine. These chemicals regulate mood, your sleep, your motivation, your appetite, your emotional stability, your stress resilience. Your gut bacteria influence how much of these neurotransmitters you produce and how well you metabolize them. When the microbiome is disrupted, serotonin levels fluctuate. So dopamine signaling becomes inconsistent. GABA, your calming neurotransmitter, becomes harder to produce. Women often say things like, I feel anxious for no reason, or I'm overwhelmed all the time, or I feel flat and unmotivated, or I can't sleep and I don't know why. That's the gut brain axis speaking to you. So let's talk about a short chain fatty acid, especially butyrate, because these little molecules are massively important for hormonal health. When you eat fiber, your gut bacteria ferment it into SCFAs. Butyrate nourishes the gut lining, tightens the junctions between cells. It reduces the inflammation, it improves the insulin sensitivity, and supports fat metabolism, and even influences estrogen detoxification. It also improves mitochondrial function, meaning it improves your energy production at the cellular level. So low CFAs are linked to PCOS, metabolic syndrome, depression, anxiety, obesity, autoimmune diseases, and hormone imbalances. And women often low in SCFAs simply because they're not eating enough fiber or the right types of fiber, or because dysbiosis prevents SCFA production. So let's talk about the bile acids, because this is one of the most underappreciated hormone gut pathways. The liver produces bile. The gallbladder stores it. Bile is critical for digestion and for hormone balance. This is interesting. Bile emulsifies fats, meaning it breaks them down so you can absorb fat soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, all essential for hormone production. But bile also acts as a natural antimicrobial in the small intestine. It prevents bacterial overgrowth. When bile flow is sluggish, which is extremely common in women, SIBO can develop. And it creates bloating, constipation, or diarrhea, estrogen recirculation problems, and nutrient malabsorption. There's also something called bile acid receptors like FXR and TGR5. These bile receptors influence metabolism. They influence thyroid function and inflammation. So the microbiome modifies bile acids, and bile acids modify the microbiome. It's a constant feedback loop. So now here's something that I think will blow your mind, because most women have never been told this. Your gut bacteria can influence how much fat your body stores and where you store it. So let me say that again. Your gut bacteria can influence how much fat your body stores and where you store it. Certain bacteria extract more calories from the same amount of food than others. This has been shown in mice and humans. And specific microbiome patterns are associated with increased visceral fat, the dangerous type that accumulates around organs and increases inflammation. When the gut is inflamed, cytokines, inflammatory signals, disrupt leptin and ghrelin. These are your hunger and fullness hormones. That's why women often say, I don't feel full, or I'm hungry all the time. I used to feel this all the time. That I was like, I heard food noise all the time, right? I was like, oh, what can I munch on now? What can I eat now? And that's when your gut dysbiosis is happening. So, I'm craving sugar constantly, or I'm craving salty, crunchy. Those cravings aren't moral failing. They're biochemical signals driven by the gut. So let's talk about fasting, because the research on fasting and the microbiome is fascinating. Fasting increases microbial diversity. It increases akkermansia, mucinophilia, a species associated with leanness, metabolic flexibility, and gut barrier integrity. It reduces inflammation and increases autophagy. Cellular cleanup processes. Autophagy goes in and cleans up all the dead cells that you have and and disposes of them. So autophagy starts at around 17 hours. Everybody's a little different. So that's why I like to fast for 24 to 36 hours, because you start to turn on the autophagy. If you can water fast for 72 hours, you only want to do that about twice a year because you do lose muscle mass during that, is you turn on stem cells. Your body will produce its own stem cells. It'll heal any kind of ailment that you have in your body. It'll help improve your skin. It'll help it'll help repair your gut. Now, when you come out of a fast, you also need to be real careful about what you start with. So if you want to learn about fasting and how that can repair your gut and get you into autophagy to clean out old cells, I can help you. But here's the nuance. If the gut is already inflamed, or if a man or woman is under chronic stress, or if the microbiome diversity is low, fasting can feel terrible. You may get anxious, shaky, or irritable. That's not because fasting is wrong. It's because the timing of the gut environment isn't ready. We also have new research showing that fasting influences bile acid metabolism and the estrobolome, which means that fasting can support estrogen clearance if the gut is supported. So, gut imbalance begins much earlier than symptoms show. This is critical because many women don't understand why their symptoms suddenly appear in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. The microbiome begins shifting long before symptoms. Childhood antibiotic use, especially repeated or early courses, is associated with higher rates of autoimmune disease, metabolic disease, anxiety, and even PCOS. Birth control pills, they alter the microbial diversity and they increase intestinal permeability. I had no idea. It took me years to repair my gut. Chronic dieting, especially low fiber dieting, reduces SCFA production and microbial diversity. This is why some of these diets that are all about eating all protein can cause problems. Earlier life stress changes, cortisol patterns, which permanently reshape the microbiome. So many women begin their adult life already playing catch up with their gut. Now, I want to dive into the deep research expansion you asked for, because the last 5 years have given us enormous clarity. Here are some of the strongest findings. Gut microbiome diversity is directly correlated with estrogen metabolite profiles. Women with lower diversity tend to have higher ratios of 4-OH and 16-OH estrogen metabolites. The metabolites associated with heavier periods, fibroids, PMS, and higher estrogen-related cancer risk. Women with PCOS have consistent microbial signatures, lower levels of bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, higher levels of bacteroides, bacteroides, and parabacteroides, lower SCFA levels, higher LPS levels, higher inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF alpha. Hashimoto's patients consistently show increased intestinal permeability. 3 major studies from 2020 to 2024 found increased zonulin levels, increased acromantia or decreased acromantia, and impaired tight junction proteins. The microbiome influences thyroid hormone conversion. Studies show that bacterial metabolites directly stimulate deionidinase enzymes, the enzymes that convert T4 to T3. And perimenopause is characterized by a predictable microbiome shift. Estrogen decline reduces lactobacillus species, increased gut permeability, and increases inflammation. So that's why just trying to get your perimenopause, your hormones in line and making sure that you're getting your gut microbiome repaired. Certain bacteria certain bacteria metabolize phytoestrogens into more beneficial compounds. For example, gut bacteria convert daidzein from soy into equal, a compound that reduces menopausal symptoms, but only about 30% of women have the bacteria needed to do it. So let me read that again. Certain bacteria metabolize phytoestrogens into more beneficial compounds. For example, gut bacteria often daidzein from soy into equal, a compound that reduces menopausal symptoms, but only about 30% of women have the bacteria needed to do it. Microbiome disruption precedes insulin resistance by years. A 2023 longitudinal study showed that microbial changes predicted metabolic dysfunction long before changes in fasting glucose or A1C. Microbiome composition predicts weight regain after dieting. This is why some women regain weight faster than others. The microbiome adapts to calorie restriction and then rebounds. And when you're thinking about supporting your hormones from the inside out, don't forget the opposite matters too. Larson Botanicals offers clean organic skincare and candles that don't disrupt your hormones or add to your toxic load. You can explore the full collection at larsonbotanicals.com. So let's expand further by talking about how healing the gut actually heals hormones. When you restore microbial diversity through fiber, resistant starch, polyphenols, and fermented foods, you increase SCFA production. So fiber might be chia seeds, might be flax seeds, might be beans, might be broccoli. Fiber comes in vegetables. So broccoli, cruciferous vegetables, green beans, there's cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. There's all kinds of great vegetables, spinach and kale, and you just got to cook it properly, right? You steam your spinach with some garlic and some lemon and some olive oil. Oh, it's so delicious. Get some kefir. Kefir has billions of microbes in there. It's so good for your gut. Get some bone broth. Have some bone broth in the morning. That'll help heal your gut. Get some mushroom extract. I just get an organic mushroom extract. It's just, and that's all that's in there is mushroom extract. And by doing this, you increase your SCFA production. And SCFAs lower inflammation. They improve your insulin sensitivity. They enhance your gut barrier integrity, and they regulate appetite hormones. When you strengthen the gut lining, inflammation decreases. Hormone receptors open back up. Thyroid hormone becomes more effective. Estrogen and progesterone regain balance. When you support bile flow through bitter foods, hydration, movement, and healthy fats, you improve. Like bitter foods actually is a kefir. It's a bitter food. Drinking plenty of water. I go through about, this is 22 ounces. I go through about 4 of those or 5 of those a day. So hydration, movement, healthy fats, you improve fat digestion and hormone absorption. Now I show you a metal bottle. One of the other things is the microplastics, which I just talked about last week. When you open up a plastic bottle to drink out of the plastic water bottle, you have shards of plastic that go into the water, and then you ingest that, and that goes into your heart, it goes into your brain, it goes into your lungs, it goes into your bloodstream. It is everywhere. So whatever you can do to reduce your plastic exposure, please do. Try to get rid of your plastic clothes. Try to get rid of, slowly but surely, not everybody can afford to do that, but you can stop drinking plastic water. Get it out of a bottle. Put on a, spend $500 and get a reverse osmosis on your kitchen sink so you can have clean water. When you reduce LPS levels through fiber, fermented foods, fasting, polyphenols like blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, inflammation decreases dramatically. Berries are really low in sugar. They really help your body. They have lots of polyphenols. I'm sure there's a lot more out there that people know about, but you can really help your body by eating these fresh berries. When you replenish beneficial bacteria through probiotics, fermented foods, diverse plant foods, you support estrogen detoxification. Sweet potatoes are awesome as well, high in fiber, full of nutrients. When you manage stress through breath work, movement, sleep hygiene, cortisol decreases and the gut heals. All of this creates hormonal environment where your body can thrive. And if you're listening to this and thinking, my gut might be at the center of my symptoms, that awareness is powerful because now you know where to focus your healing. If you need personalized support, if you feel like you've tried everything and your body still isn't responding, I want you to know that you're not broken. You're not failing. You're not destined to feel this way forever. You simply need the right map. You can always reach out to me at Kim Larson at larsonnutrition.com or visit larsonnutrition.com to explore functional nutrition coaching that looks at your gut, your hormones, your history, your labs, and your lifestyle in a way that makes sense for your symptoms. There's a search function on all my blogs and all my recipes. Search for what you are interested in. If you're gut dysbiosis, thyroiditis, Hashimoto's, PCOS, SIBO, you can search for any of these and there's, I'm sure, a blog on it. Your body is always communicating. Symptoms are signals, right? And the gut is more often than not is the place those signals begin. So thank you for spending this time with me today. Share this episode with a woman in your life who needs clarity, hope, or a fresh perspective on her hormones. And I'll see you next week for another deep dive into the science of women's health and healing. You can listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, watch full episodes on YouTube and LinkedIn, and follow along on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, where I share behind the scenes from client work, recipes, science breakdowns, and daily insights. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas and